Good morning, boys and girls. Gonna get a little trickier today. As you see, we just have a bigger number, like 1,254 times 3, but the same general idea. Okay, like last week, we did just like 1,000 times 3. Again, you just do your one math fact. 1 times 3 makes 3. Then you go back and you count your zeros. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we made it a little harder. We got rid of kind of just the one part, and then we did ones like this, where it was kind of a regular number besides one times a regular number besides one, and then the zeros, where we do the same thing, just kind of the 3 times 2, like we did the 1 times 3. 2 times 3 makes 6. And then again, then you go back and you count 1, 2 zeros, 1, 2 zeros. And then yesterday, we're working on just kind of regular multiplication. Remember, I was going to start with this part here. 3 times 4. 3 times 4 makes 12. So the 2 goes down, and then the 1 carries. Then you have left. Then we have to multiply the number on the bottom. I don't know why it won't switch to blue. And then you have that number on the bottom times the tens, and then plus the extra 1. So now we have 3 times 5, which is 15. And then we add one more on to that. That one that we carried over becomes 16. Okay, and then kind of in our partial product method, I kind of skipped a little bit of that, but then you would add these different parts together. Like this one was 600, this one was 162. And I'll show you that over on the chart behind me in a second. So over on the chart behind me, I can kind of show you that right here. 3 times 1,254. Yeah, this is basically like one group or one person. And so one person has 1,254. If we have a second person, right, we now have 2 in the thousands, we have 4 in the hundreds. We'd end up with 10 here, which would make a fifth one over here eventually, and then 8 over here. And all I did was just double all those different parts. And if I was to introduce a third person, there's another 1,000, another 200, another 50, and another 4. And I would be able to go back and I'll be able to kind of show you kind of where those numbers come from over here. And this is our 3 times 4. That was 12. And one number goes down, 1, 2, and then the 10 carries over. And then here, again, I have 10, I have 16. And that's kind of right here, the 16. Now that we did over here. So again, these 10 slide over and become another one over here. And same way, I should have crossed out. So these 10, I moved over. I still had 2 left. Again, I still have 6 left here. Then I brought this one over. That's the 6 plus 1. Switch colors. That's right here. The 6 plus the 1 that I carried is now 7. And then this is 3. When I add those together, I should get that same answer. Okay, so that's kind of a bit of the partial product. I'm going to pause it and erase part of this and show you that whole thing again from the start. Now I'm going to just do that same thing kind of from the beginning, how I normally do it. What I call the standard algorithm, I call it the regular way. My buddy Tony calls it old school. Good work, Tony. Okay? It's the same thing. You basically just start here and you multiply the 3 by each number going across, and then afterwards you add on anything if you carried it. So those are kind of the steps of regular multiplication. Okay, so first 3 times 4, just like we did over here. 3 times 4 is 12. So again, the 2 goes down and the 1 carries. One mistake sometimes my students have made in the past, and we even saw it a little bit yesterday. Sometimes they do 1 plus 5 is 6 and then multiply that by 3. Don't do that. Okay, the 1 gets added on afterwards. So we already did 3 times 4. And then we're going to do 3 times 5. After we figure out what 3 times 5 is, then we add the 1 back on. So 3 times 5, 5, 10, 15, plus the 1 that we carried makes 16. Okay? And see how that, then that 1 carries over to the hundreds place, just like we did over here. That's that same exact spot. Then we do 3 times 2, find that, then add the 1 that we carried back on. Okay, so 3 times 2 makes 6, plus the 1 that we carried makes 7. Again, that's just these two things, again, getting added together, the 6 and the 1. Again, you can see here, there's now a total of 7. And then 3 times 1. Remember, any number times 1 is itself. And then on all those cases, again, the main thing here is I got the same answer. Right? So I just really want you to learn kind of this way. It's kind of the most efficient way, especially as you get into bigger numbers. Or again, if you get into like this later in the year, we'll get in like 2 by 2 multiplication. Like 47 times 38. And trying to sit there and do that on a chart or something is very difficult. Trying to do that partial products also because you remember, okay, this is 8, this one's a 40, this is a 30, this is a 40, and try to remember all those zeros in there. And then next year, like in 5th grade, to do like 3 by 3 multiplication. It'll be like 472 times 385. And trying to keep all that connected and going is kind of way, way harder. So the better you get at this one, kind of the easier the other versions will be as well. So I'll show you another one that has a 0 in it, just to see that different part. So then I wanted to just show you one more example, because something different that happens here. And we have 1,407 times 3. The basic steps are still the same. And you're going to multiply the ones place by the ones place. And 3 times 7 is 21. This is why I want to show you what's going to be different. Okay? The 1 goes down and the 2 carries over. So I know like usually when you're adding, we only carry like 1 and stuff, but whatever that tens place is, that's what you carry over. Because here's the part that tricks a lot of people. 3 times 0 plus 2 is essentially what they're asking you to do there. And so you do the parentheses means I do that first, which you would anyway kind of in that, but I just wanted to kind of emphasize that. You do 3 times 0 first. Any number times 0 equals 0. It doesn't matter what I put in that end spot, it's always going to work. Just like any number times 1 equals n. Whatever number I put there and I times it by 1, it stays the same. It could be 4.2, 6.5, 3,572,865. If I times it by 1, it stays the same. If I times it by 0, it becomes 0 when you're multiplying. That's just a rule. Okay? So what tricks people sometimes is they either put 0 as the answer, and they forget to add the 2 back on, or they do 3 times 2 is 6. Okay? And both of those would be incorrect here. Those are kind of the common mistakes that I see. 3 times 0 is 0. Then I have to add the 2 that I carried back on. So this is not 3 times 2, even though the 2 is up here. You do 3 times 0 is 0. Then I add 2 back on to make 2. Okay? Then 3 times 4 is 12. So I carry the 1. And then 3 times 1 is 3. Remember, that's my identity property. This one's called the 0 property. Any number times 1 is itself. So 3 times 1 stays 3. I have one group of 3. And then I add that extra 1 back on. All right, so that's what we're going to be working on today. Instead of the assessments, I put this in a Google form. And then this video will be on there for you to be able to use. There'll be kind of like a first section that has just some with the zeros, like I was showing you before, like 5 times 100, 30 times 20, all those kind of things like that. And then there'll be another section. I'll have this video on there, and then there'll just be a bunch of these longer, bigger multiplication problems. All right, now we'll see you guys in a little bit.